You are down with.
Yo, Dave.
What up?
Drop the beat.
We like it old school. You know how we do this.
What you listening to?
The brothers from the 818.
91331.
Pacoima, California.
What's up, Dave?
What's up, Caleb?
The real, the raw, the relevant.
No script.
We invite you into our conversation. What's going on, people?
Let me just say this.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
You are down with.
The brothers from the 818.
What's going on, people? You are back for another episode of the Brothers from the 818. My name is Dave, two times, and check out my fly gear, man. Got the bucket hat, the gazelles, the bling. I don't know if you can see this, but the diamond crusted D for Dave. Two times. I'm not here by myself, kicking it with my man Caleb. What's going on with you?
Oh man, you are on an island by yourself, brother. I love the gear. You are David Throwback, man. I love it though. It's good.
Love it, man. Love it. I think I told you I was in Vegas this past weekend, went to a 90's party, and this was my gear. Me and my girl went, and she put up an Instagram post and said, "We understood the assignment." I was like, that's what's up. That's what's up. You know, I got almost 10 years on her, so she know the lingo to put it right. I'd say just, hey, look what I'm wearing, right? But yeah, man, it was a 90's party. It was off the hooks. I said, let me go on and represent, because you see I had to represent the hat. I got the BFT 818 out there. And so folks was like, what's that? Is that from the 90's? I was like, well, I was in the 90's, and that's me now. So yeah, it was from the 90's. What's good with you, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. Let me just tell you, let me talk your language, man. That is dope. That is so fresh. That's 90 lingo for y'all out there.
There it is.
Let me do my check-in, man. First of all, I'm supposed to be coming up with a nickname. You know, I struggle with that. I really don't have a nickname outside of my time in the military. All of my time in the military, the people call me Sarge, people call me Captain, people, obviously when I promoted, they called me Sir. But I really don't have a nickname. So I'm gonna leave it alone, man. Nothing really sticks with me. Okay. But I love David two times, and that's why we've been talking about it for the last couple weeks. My check-in, the wife is out of town. The wife is gone. She is serving this nation, doing her thing. And that also means that I am on full-time, non-stop work duty and daddy duty. It has been a challenge. Thank you, man. Give it to me.
There it is.
It has been a bigger challenge than I anticipated. Just because this is a hell week at work. I got everything going on at work. And so I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting the children out to school, working my full day, picking them up, and I'm with them until they lay down at night. So it's a blessing as well. When I think about other parents doing this, some single parents, they do it all on their own without any support. Right. And when I think about like yourself, by the way, and then I have a greater appreciation for parents that do it with other challenges. Like I have a roof over my head. I have food in my refrigerator. And there are people that are concerned how they're going to pay their bills with children in their care. So big ups to everyone that's doing that, including my man, David, two times. And let me ask you, what have you been up to besides the Vegas trip? Why don't you check in?
Man, let me acknowledge you real quick. I was gonna say welcome to the club, but you know, I'm always just impressed is even the wrong word. You're gonna do what you need to do as a pops, and I appreciate that. I've been doing it for a minute, but my kids are a little older, right? So they're teenagers now. And it's a little easier, right? They weren't always teenagers. And so, It's always that try to figure it out, what's going to happen next, who's going to watch them. They need to eat. Even the moments where I'm like, I could go ahead and chill and keep flowing, they still got to do their thing. So it's just the way it is, man. And it's out of love, not obligation, right? I mean, you really don't have a choice, but you still do it out of love. And so keep doing your thing, man. And these times are times you just get to grow closer and closer to your kids. So that's what's up. But big ups to your wife too, man. I know she's still putting in that grind with Uncle Sam and his duties and handling her business. So, and that has to be hard on any woman to just get up and bounce, really any person. But for a mom to leave her children and be like, all right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. There has to be a certain something that you and I will never know what that's like. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even us leaving our kids for 2 weeks is not from the view of a mom. So it's still different.
Right. Yeah.
Not better, not worse, but different. This is July, man, and I'll just leave it like that. And so, people don't ask me no more, what's up with you over the summer? You in the school system, so you ain't doing nothing. They know I'm busy over the summer. But now folks are starting to come back. All the stuff we needed to get done is getting done. It's just a crazy time, but honestly, I'm looking forward to some vacation. I'm looking forward to New Orleans, right?
Yes.
And, one for the hangout and just the celebration and kick it with the bros, but other just to get away, man, just to be like, okay, I'm gone. I don't even have to, I got no duties that are the same here, right? When I'm in New Orleans, I'm always daddy, but my kids will be here, right? And so that's what's up, man. Just knocking it out, just task after task, and no complaints on it, just making it happen. So life's good, man. Like I said, the life I live, people would die to have. So I'm not going to complain even about the hard days.
Right. It's all a blessing, man.
When I go to my refrigerator, my kids go around there to the refrigerator, they can't see the back of it, right? And that's a blessing, right? I mean, they choose not to eat leftovers. That's a blessing. And there's always something in the house. So God's been good to us, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you mentioned New Orleans. I don't know if we're going to talk very much of it this week, or we could talk about it next week or even the week after. But New Orleans is coming up. If people that follow the podcast, they know that there's a plan to celebrate in New Orleans my 50th, but there's also this Delta variant. And we've talked a lot about COVID and what that looks like and fears and whether or not people should be vaccinated. I'll just say this, man. This new variant seems to be hitting people that are not vaccinated much harder than people that were. And if you were on the fence, it might be time for you to reconsider getting vaccinated.
Yeah, no doubt. Preaching to the choir, man. I made that decision a while ago. Made that decision for my children as well. It's just, it's just better. I think we, especially as Black people, we remember, well, you and I probably don't remember, but we've heard the stories of Tuskegee and different experiments that happened where, they were basically poisoning us to see what happens and trying to kill us off. And it's hard to see that this isn't that for the skeptical, but it's not, right? And just like, a flu shot won't stop you from getting the flu. It'll just stop you from being laid up. A COVID shot won't necessarily stop you from catching COVID, but it gives you a better defense than if you didn't have it, right? And once I realized that and started looking at it like that, and even any shot is better than no shot, that stopped the Pfizer versus Moderna versus Johnson & Johnson. It was like, look, let's see what's available and get it done. And, I think Johnson & Johnson went through their blood clot and, some things was happening. Hey, figure out what you need to do and just get it done. And speaking specifically to my people, don't let the history affect your future, right? Speaking to everybody, it's the same deal. It's better to have some shot than no shot, because this Delta variant is killing folks, man. I keep hearing, 20 people got hit with the Delta variant, 16 died, the 4 that lived were vaccinated, right? So they got hit with it, but they made it through. And so that's what we got to be able to do. And that's what's up. That's my PSA
Hey
on
man,
that.
that's a public service announcement from the brothers from the 818. Go ahead, and if you're on the fence, reconsider it. Talk to your medical provider. Talk to someone that's taken the shot. This is a global pandemic. This is not something that is just trumped up in the United States. This is something that's happening globally, and I feel better. I feel better. I think if I hadn't taken my my vaccine, if I wasn't vaccinated, I wouldn't be traveling or even consider traveling.
No.
So there you go, man. What else is going on, man? What are we talking about?
Man, tonight, like I got my 90s gear on, man. I went to this 90s party, and, I knew what I was going in there to do. My girl, I'm going to put up a picture. She was fly, man. I'm telling you, I was just like looking at her like, damn, I wish I'd met you in the 90s, right? I mean, we would have just been out there doing our thing. But in the 90s, she would have been like 2. So maybe not, right? No, she's not that young, but she would have been young in the 90s, almost 10 years younger than me. So the point is, we got there and I started seeing a whole lot of people's representation of the 90s. And I was just
What the
like,
90s
some of them were
supposed to
just,
look like. Yeah.
yeah, some of them were just throwing on anything. But like my nephew was there and he was dressed like O-Dog from Minister Society. And I was like, man, didn't even consider that, right? And I thought about how I dressed in the 90s, how you dressed in the 90s, and I had a job. So a lot of times it was slacks and some shoes and a button down, right? And so so I looked back at that. So I said, let's talk about a little bit of back in the day, some 90s, some music. What kind of things was you into? 89 Tercel. What kind of things was you into? And activities? What kind of stuff did we get into? I mean, the stuff I remember, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that, and vice versa, because we was in it together. And then, that was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So as we move forward, you're about to celebrate the big 5-0 in New Orleans. Let's just keep it real. What can't you do anymore? Like what kind of stuff was like normal flow back then and today, even if you can do it, you're like, man, this ain't what it was. So let's talk about that. You down?
Let's do it, man. The 90s was a great time. The 90s was a wonderful time for music, for entertainment, for hitting the clubs. It wasn't all the bottle service. It wasn't expensive to get in there. The 90s, when I think about the 90s, I just put a smile on my face. But there's certainly some things that I can't do anymore.
Cool.
Yeah, one of them is I can't hang out. I can't stay up to 2, 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. That is done. I'm not doing that anymore. I could stay out up to midnight.
Okay.
I could hang out and be in the car at 1 o'clock to arrive at 1:30, 2 o'clock. But I need to be asleep, man. I can't do it anymore.
Can't do it.
How about you?
Or won't do it because the next day is that bad. Because you also got some wisdom now. So which one is it?
Nah, man, I'll probably do it in New Orleans. I just have, not only do I have wisdom, I have different responsibilities. And with the little ones in the house, I can't, they wake up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, no matter what. Weekends, weekdays, they're up. They're shaking me and waking me up. So the responsibilities and the job and all of it, I can't do it anymore for a lot of reasons.
So let's focus there for a minute. I really want to get back to some of the things that we used to do. But yeah, there's some things I can't do as well. But there's some things that I just don't recover from as fast. Right? So, go out and like playing football, right? Go play football for the day, and I'd be a little sore. The next day, I'm ready to go. If I was to get myself out there and play a football game, even for like 20 minutes, running up and down, trying to catch the ball, tackle somebody, I'd be laid up for a couple of days, man. I need some Bengay, Icy Hot, some Motrin, Vicodin, whatever it takes to muscle relax. My back would go out. You know, I don't have that drive. Speaking of drive, I love driving, man. I spend a lot of money on cars because of my love for the drive. But, you know, a 4-hour, 5-hour, 6-hour drive from Vegas, I'm exhausted, man. I'm just like, I need a nap. And the next day, if I don't get that nap, I'm really feeling it. Like, I might be done with the long distance roll. I might be at that point where it's plane tickets or bust.
Yeah, we used to hop in the car. Where you want to go, and it didn't matter how far it was. It didn't matter how long it would take. We would be able to drive nonstop and just do it. And for you to say, you know, 4 or 5 hours, I'm tired. I'm tired of being on the road, especially that 15. That 15 will tire anybody out. Yes, and so I'm feeling that. And you mentioned cars. The 90s is when you and I fell in love with cars. I mean, our first cars were buckets, right? And then we had we had an option, not what we have now, but we had an option of what our next car were going to be. We had a starter car, and then we had our next car.
Right.
The 90s was when we kind of fell in love with vehicles. Last week, I was rushing to get somewhere, and I was kind of pushing the speed a little bit faster than what's posted. But I was uncomfortable driving. I felt myself uncomfortable driving a much faster speed than I would normally do. Okay. And that's something else that I can't do anymore. Back in the day, I would be, you and I would be a little, I won't call it reckless, but we would be a little carefree with the odometer, right? And I just can't do it anymore.
Let me just say this. Back in the day, I could push my car to the extreme limits to make it do 110. And it'd be shaking, and you could see it just wasn't comfortable, and it didn't have a whole lot of safety provisions, and it just wasn't the wisest thing to do. Today, 110, I ain't saying I do 110 on the regular, but today 110 is easy to do, and it's effortless, right? Because the car is just that much more capable. So I'm still comfortable driving fast. What I'm not comfortable doing is driving what I consider to be reckless.
Right.
Let me explain.
Right. Yeah.
There was a time in the 90s I went to go visit my cousin, my little cousin. We're going to call him M squared. We're going to call him that. You know who it is. Grew up in Pacoima with us. And I was kicking it at his house. I was like, I just stopped by to say, what's up, man? How you living? And he was like, oh, I'm just chilling for the weekend. I ain't got nothing going on. I was like, well, I'm on my way to Vegas. You want to roll? Right? Again, that's how we did back in the day, right? And he was like, yeah, bet. So I called my boy T, live in Vegas. You know who that is. I'm sorry. No. Let me switch that up. We were going to Oakland. So I was like, I'm going to Oakland. You want to roll? He was like, yeah. So I called my boy T. He live in Vegas. I was like, yo, man, we about to head to Oakland. You want to roll? He was like, bet. And he said, well, I'm a little farther than you, and so forth. I was like, well, cool. Hit me up when you get to this spot. That's going to put us about where I should be leaving, and blah, blah, blah. So we did that. So he hit the 5, and called me. It was like, yo, man, the fog out here is crazy. Like, you can't see in front of the bumper. And I was like, all right, bet. We'll pull over, just drive slow in the slow lane, put your hazard lights on. And this is beginning of cell phones, right? So drive out there. I see him. I hit him up. Yo, T, is that you? Yes, me. All right, get on my bumper. Do what I do, right? And my philosophy was, if I can't see the police, they can't see me. So I put it at like $110, and every time I saw red lights in front of me, I just got over, and then got back over, and got back over. And I look at that then, I was like, that's just how you roll, because I'm no punk, right? 15 years later, I'm rolling up with my wife in the car. We're in the minivan, kids in the back. It's fog like that, and I'm doing like 40 miles an hour, scared. I'm like, I've lost my nerve, man. It's just,
Wow.
and that would be reckless. Like, I couldn't imagine driving
Good for me.
more than 40 miles an hour, if that, in a zone where I know I can't see. Back in the day, that means I can't be seen. So I'm good.
Yeah, that was it for me. I lost my nerve,
Yeah.
and I think it's all attached to responsibility. And you and I talk about it all the time, being accountable,
Yeah.
not just for me, but for everyone around me and everyone that's dependent on me, everyone that I got on my back.
Yeah.
Something else that you mentioned in that story that hopefully everyone caught is the impromptu, the spontaneous. Let's what you doing? You want to go for the weekend? I can't do that anymore. By the way, it's that's not an option for me.
No, I can't. Not only can I not do it for the weekend, but you're gonna have to give me 2-3 weeks notice, right? Let me plan that out. I'm gonna have to talk to some people. I'm gonna have to make some arrangements. I'm gonna have to check my timeshare, see where I can stay. There's a whole lot of movement involved in them pieces. But you're right. When I see Christopher, I'm gonna pop him upside his head for making me responsible, right? Because prior to him, man, it was just on. It was just about me. I could do what I wanted to do. And he was born in '96. So,
Right.
he brought me up. And Iman, she's what, 93?
93. Yeah.
So that brings us up. But just quick list, man. Stuff I can't do anymore. Like I said, a whole lot of physical exertion. Nah, I'm good with all that. Generally moving slower. And some of it is by choice because I just ain't in a rush no more. Right? But some of it, I was at lunch with some cats the other day, and there was a couple 20-somethings there. I was like, it ain't like I'm in pain, but them first 15 steps of the day when I get out of bed, they not so smooth, right? Stretching out the legs, getting the creaks out, random soreness, like waking up, like, why is my shoulder hurting, right? And having to stretch out. That's one. And you're in a whole lot better shape than I am, and you spent a lot of time in the military, and so you probably don't see a lot of this. You mentioned staying up all night. We got to talking about back in the day of just like getting in scuffles, right? And so probably that was more of the 80s for me. I didn't get in a lot of scuffles in the 90s, but I couldn't even imagine getting in a scuffle now. Not because I would lose, but how long is it going to take me to heal from this, right? This is just not a good idea. I have a lot more patience today, but less tolerance.
Wow.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
A lot more patience, but less tolerance. Tell me what you think about that. I don't even want to explain it. Tell me what you think about that.
I could relate to a lot of what you said, although I would agree with you. The military has helped me stay young and fit, but I'm still having a lot of those same issues that you talked about. In regards to patience and tolerance, I don't have the time. My time is valuable to me, more valuable than I used to think of time. I'm not someone that's saying, now I'm 80, I'm in the winter of my life. I don't think of my life in that way. I still think of myself as very young, but I don't have time for, man, we don't cuss on this show, the BS, right? And I'm grown, and I think we were talking about that a couple weeks ago when I was talking about an incident that happened with my brothers. I'm grown, and as a grown man, I get to choose what I do with my time. And if I'm in a situation that I'm just not right, I'm bouncing. I don't need to stay there anymore. I got my own car. I arrived on my own. I got my own money, and I'm grown. And my time is valuable. And I don't know if the younger me in the 90s would have seen it that way. What did you mean by the patience and the tolerance?
I have much more patience. Again, I'm just not in a rush, right? And I'm more likely to listen to how can I help you? How can I support? Let me hear the whole story, because now I'm not listening to get to a solution. I'm listening to understand. But I have less tolerance because I don't want my time wasted.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to tolerate as much as I used to get to the point, right? I mean, if you need help, you need help. But if you just wasted my time, I'm going to figure that out. And I'll be like, all right, we got to do our thing. And like you said, I have the luxury of picking and choosing where I choose to spend my time, right? And so it could be I'm going to get away from foolishness, right?
Right.
It also could be, why am I driving all night? I can pull over, get a hotel. I don't even have to check my bank account. It ain't got to be some cheap Motel 6 if I don't want it to be. Let's figure
That's
this out.
something else I can't do. That's something I can't do. I'm not staying in a motel, a Super 8, a Travel Lodge.
No, not even a little bit. So we're in Vegas. You know, we pull up to, and usually when I go to Vegas, I drop my kids off at my sister's, because they got cousins and everything else, and me and my girl, we go to the hotel. But I was like, you know, they've been missing the Vegas experience. Let me get a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and pop them up in there. And I did, and they walk in, and their eyes get big. They're like, man, this is like home. I'm like, get comfortable, right? And we had a kitchen, so we went down to the Walgreens. I was like, just go shopping, man. Get what y'all need, because you might get hungry in the middle of the night. And it's just, it's a different type of environment. And trust me, I'm saying this to you, and I'm saying this to all y'all. This ain't Caleb and I bragging because, oh yeah, we can afford this, we can afford that. That ain't it. It's really just, we've just matured, and it ain't about, you know, proving something or, you know, whatever. And the bottom line is, we just chopping it up because this is just what we do. And, you know, we remember the days when a Motel 6 was an option. Matter of fact, forget all that. I remember the days pulling over at the rest stop, pulling down the back seats, putting my feet in the trunk, grabbing the pillow, and just laying across the back of the back seats because I needed to get some rest, right? And so I just don't want to do that anymore, man. I don't have it in me to be that cat.
You said it, man. It is about, you know, I say grown, but that's a real big net. I say grown. It's also about being secure. It's also about being mature as well.
Yeah.
So that's just security where I don't need to worry about it. What is not going to get paid if I decide to spend an extra $20 and move from the motel to the hotel, right? I don't need to worry about that no more. So it says a lot. I remember cats used to call David Smith up all the time and say, hey man, I got this new stereo, man, could you put it in? And you'd be like, yeah, bet, I'm there, right?
Got you.
I got these speakers, man, could you help me out? Well, yeah, I'm there. I'm sure today you'd be like, nah, man, the Best Buy is right down the street, or your local car audio dealer is right down the street, because of that time, right? And you value it differently than you did years ago.
Plus, man, my hands don't bend like that no more. And what I'm gonna look like, my size crawling up under somebody's dashboard, man. And now you say that, but I do a lot of work on my own car because I happen to love it. But I'm not putting that work in for somebody else. I'm just not. And people have been like, yo, man, I'll even pay you. Cool, pay somebody else because I don't need the money, right? It's really about, you need to, and I get you just want me to hook you up. I get that. But I'm a little past that. I am. And it's not because I'm better than that or anything else. It has nothing to do with that. And it's not because I don't want to help you. It's just my time, man. My time is much more valuable than that. And here's one of the things I always say, and I think I've said it before. You might call me on a Sunday and be like, what you doing? Nothing. Oh, well, let's go do this, that, and the other. I'm busy. You just said you was doing nothing. Yep.
I'm busy doing nothing.
Doing nothing. And I'm cool with that. Right? So value the time.
That reminds me of,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that in regards to that, my brother Yusuf, he used to do a lot of repairs, more like home repairs, like fix someone's AC, fix someone's ice maker and stuff. And I called him up because my ice maker is fine. I called him up because one of my neighbors was having an issue with the ice maker. He says, I'm strictly family now. I'm not doing any pro bono for people that are not DNA. And so that's that timepiece.
It is. And I feel you on that. I'm truly family now. You part of family. But you know, if you ain't got DNA or a whole lot of years of love, try somebody else. And I know some youngsters that's about getting their feet wet in this business. So I'm like, hey, why don't you go talk to such and such? They ain't gonna do a good a job as you. True. But they gotta learn, right? and that's just where that goes. The other thing I realized that I am, and I realized a long time ago, but I don't know if I've ever said it to you or anybody else, but I'm the old guy at work, man. So I've been doing the same thing for the last 30 years, career-wise, right? And when I was 25, had my suits, 2 cell phones, a whole lot of keys, walking around like I'm HNIC, you know, click, clack, and I thought I was just a business. And somebody 40 was like, you know, you youngster, da-da-da. Like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You 40, you old, you don't know, da-da-da-da-da. I'm that 50-year-old now, man, that's looking at these 20-somethings like, let me give you some wisdom, youngster. and I don't know how much I even mind it as much as I try not to be it, right? This cat I work with, he's like, man, there ain't no better drink than Hennessy. I'm like, because you can't afford nothing better than Hennessy, man. I mean, come on now. Let's just get a little older, you know, and let's talk about it, right? And so yeah, man, that's just kind of a history of things I could do that I couldn't. I'm glad my girl is a little younger because she forces me to, no, she doesn't force me. She makes me force myself to engage in some activities that I might have put away 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad for that because we can get out there and have some fun. But for the most part,
you don't want to be that you don't want to be that guy with the pocket protector. You don't want to be that guy with the pocket protector. That old guy is like, oh man, here comes Harold again with the pocket protector.
Right.
You don't want to be you like that. And like I still think of myself as a young, youthful, spirited person. Yeah. But I know that there is definitely some generational gaps for me, even with technology. And I know that you are really tech savvy, but there's some things that I'm missing with technology that I have been intentional in saying, well, I need to learn this, because if I don't learn this, then in 5 years, there's going to be a whole bunch that I miss. Right. I realize that, you know, I've had Instagram for a couple years, probably 2 or 3 years, but I still don't know how to make my Instagram page look like someone else's Instagram page.
Like your daughter's Instagram page, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I know how to go on Instagram. I know how to forward something, but I've never created anything that's original. And so speaking of getting older, I'm forcing myself, or I will force myself to make sure that I stay current with technology. Right. And because it's important, because I know if I don't, it's going to pass me up, and I'll be that guy with the pocket protector and the flip phone, and lost with how do I log on to this network?
Right. Well, let me just say this, and hopefully it gives you a little sense of feeling better. There are laws and rules and regulations that you know as a function of your job that the average person doesn't know. Right? And correct. You know them well. You don't got to think about it. It's just the way it is. Right? As do I. But my job happens to be in technology. And it always has been. So when people are like, how do you just know all this? Be like, because it's like breathing. This is what I do. Right? Day in and day out. Now, I happen to be the person who manages the people who put in the majority of the work. But I get the respect I do because I know how to put in the work, and they know that. And then I also get to be the person who calms the other people down who see it as a big task, and I bring it down to something manageable. So, where people are like, man, I wish I could do what you do for technology. I come back and say, well, what do you do? Because I guarantee I probably can't do what you do as well as you do. My do just happens to be in technology. So that's where that is. But let's shift a little bit, because we talked about coming from the 90s, and both of us are born in the 70s, right? That makes us 80s babies, right? We came of age during the 80s. We start cutting up probably mid 80s, exploring everything that you could explore as young boys growing up in the hood. 90s, we became mobile. And when I say mobile, I mean we were actually moving under our own steam. Now you're not checking in with mom and dad about where you can go. Now the travel hits. We both got married. Responsibility kicks in. The 2000s continue. I think you were deployed for a few of those realms. So you're really experiencing a life that I still don't know about, right? 2010s is just continuing. 2020s is we are where we are, right? So that's kind of where we've been. But what I remember, some cat walked in my office today, the dude that does our music. He walked in and he said, "What's that?" And I was like, "What you mean, what's that?" He said, "That thing over your shoulder." And I turned around and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I honestly didn't notice. And he says, "Is that a record player?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I happened to be listening to some Teddy P today on vinyl.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I was sharing with him the vinyl, and I showed him, and I call it one of my prized possessions. It's the day I met Eazy-E, right? Mm-hmm. Because I still got the,
Where were you when you met him?
Compton. I was in Compton. It was 87, I think. I was hanging out with somebody, or went over somebody's house or whatever, and I saw a crowd and walked towards the crowd, and it was Eazy-E selling what's the name out of his trunk. And it was right after you and I went to see NWA at the Palladium. And Salt and Pepper was there.
Yeah.
Right? And so right after that, ran into Eazy, and not like I ran into him like, ooh, that's Eazy. I ran into him because he was selling copies of Boys in the Hood out the trunk. And I still got that, right? And so that's like my prized possession, right, as far as vinyl goes. And so I was sharing that with him and blah, blah, blah. And so, music, man. And, we already did our hip-hop episode, and, I got my B-boy look on right now. But what songs stand out to you from the 90s? I got one for you. You're going to be like, oh, man, I'm going to take you back. But what songs stand out to you from the 90s?
Man, when you were talking about the vinyl, I was thinking, man, you should introduce, you'd really blow his mind if you showed him an 8-track. If he was that shocked about the vinyl, that would be a trip. You mentioned Eazy-E, and I wanted to, before I answer your question, I wanted to say that I met Eazy. I met Eazy on while I was at school at CSUN, and I wasn't really starstruck, never been starstruck. But you and I, we met Run DMC from Run DMC in the late 80s. After we graduated,
that was 90s.
that was the second trip.
Yeah.
In the 90s, and so we met Run from Run DMC, and in 2000 I met Sade, which I was starstruck when I saw Sade, and I was like, that forehead. I was seeing her from across the room. I was like, that forehead. That has to be Sade.
You were in Rome or something, right?
I was at the Colosseum in Rome.
Yeah.
And I need to get a little closer and see if those freckles, if she has freckles on her face with that forehead, that's Sade.
Okay.
So you mentioned being starstruck. I've never really been starstruck, but I didn't know the story about Eazy. So that's really cool, man. I'm glad that you shared that with me and our audience. Regarding music, there's so much music. I mean, from Ice Cube leaving NWA to Outkast just kind of coming on the scene and blowing my mind, talking about early 90s was a wonderful time for music.
Right.
I mean, Snoop Dogg came on the scene in the 90s. You're talking about Jodeci and D'Angelo, and you're talking about Boyz II Men. There's so much music in the 90s. I'll just name off groups. We could do this all night, just naming off groups. You said you want to name off some songs, so go ahead.
Goody Mob.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
And anybody who watching this, don't challenge me. This is not about being challenged, but if hear what I'm saying. When Goody Mob came up, that was at the point where the lyrics weren't talking about clubbing or women or whatever. They were striking a consciousness, right? And on that PE tip, right? I was listening to Nation of Millions earlier today, and it's on that PE tip of just a social, and even different from PE, it was just a social consciousness, putting words together where you had to check the metaphor to understand what they were talking about. And for you youngsters out there, CeeLo Green, all right? I mean, that's where he came out of before he decided to be an R&B artist. He was hip hop in a group. He was rap in a group called Goody Mob. And so, you know, I thought about that. And the other one, I remember being on Glen Oaks. I think, was it a Tower Records right there?
Oh, yeah.
Across from the McDonald's? Was that a Tower Records?
No, the Tower Records is on Van Nuys. The Glen Oaks, there was a, it wasn't
Tower. Anyway, think about it. We went there because All Eyes on Me dropped.
Mm-hmm.
It was me, you, I think his name was Sean. He worked at the VA with you.
Yeah.
He was the one that dropped dime on Ramona. That was her name. Remember that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we bought Gangster Lean. Remember that? This song's dedicated to my homies. Yeah. Remember that? And I was just like, man. And so think about it. So this is pre-CD, dude. No. I'm lying. It wasn't. CDs was out then. I think we were still buying tapes, and sometimes you bought CDs. But I remember peeling that tape off, man, and couldn't wait to get to the car just to turn it on and bump whatever it was. And I remember bumping Gangster Lean, man. I remember that. And Bone Thugs when they first came out.
Boom.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sean. Sean, I gave him a nickname of his middle name was Roscoe. But I called him Sko. But his first name was Sean. That is crazy. Now that you mentioned the whether or not we were pulling cassettes or CDs when that was first coming out, that also brings me to Walkmans. You know, people that's listening in, especially our younger audience, they're like, man, these guys are really excited about the 90s. I wasn't even born yet, right?
Right.
But the 90s was an amazing time, man. Amazing time. And some of the music, like you mentioned Goody Mob. I wasn't even thinking about Goody Mob. I was thinking about Outkast, who I associate with Goody Mob. Right. But there was a ton of other artists that came out around that same time. And, you know, here I am, a young adult, and, you know, I was always a hip hop head. But, you know, when I had the ladies with me, when I was chasing the skirts, then I had to have some I had to have some D'Angelo and some Genuine and and some Tony, some Jodeci, you know. Oh man, the music in the 90s, and we still had Prince, we still had Michael Jackson, we still had we had a collection of all of it. I feel like that was when I'm thinking about the 90s, man, I go back and I could just celebrate it and play that music still today as if it came out fresh and new today. People can't even imagine. They can't even imagine me today, you today, about to go into a completely different direction where we're at today because we were doing music. And I signed a contract. I signed a record contract. A lot of people don't know that about me.
Right.
It never came to fruition, but I signed a contract. The music just kind of changed on me while I was working on the music, and I went in a different direction. But music means a lot to me, especially some of those artists that you just dropped. I mean, some of my idols is Ice Cube and Scarface and Jay-Z and Outkast, that and Snoop. That stuff really changed, or I identified, it didn't change me, but I identified with them in a way that I was I could recite all their songs, and I could put myself in their shoes, because I felt, or nah, I didn't feel, I was actually making music at that time.
Right.
So we could go on, man, but hey, you kind of sparked me right there. Appreciate it.
Movie. We about out of here. You got a movie that stands out for you in the 90s? It's just like this is the one.
100 of them. I mean, the 90s was an incredible time. You're talking about Fridays, Dead Presidents. You're talking about Menace to Society. One of my favorite movies of all time is Good Will Hunting. There was Misery. There's a ton of movies. Fight Club was in the 90s as well. Goodfellas, Juice, American Beauty, another one of my favorite movies. And now you're talking about, I'm gonna hit you with this one. They just released Space Jam 2. Space Jam was in the 90s.
Yes, it was. Yes,
95.
You brought up Misery, though, dude. How you gonna bring up Misery, man? I mean,
that changed my life for cinema.
Yeah, I remember. I've seen Misery probably 4 times, not much. But the only movie I turn my head on more than Misery is Lion King, right? Because I saw that one time she hit him in the ankles, and I was like, I don't ever need to see that again for the rest of my life. And after Mufasa died, I was like, I don't ever need to see that scene for the rest of my life. So when my kids were growing up, they were like, Dad, let's watch Lion King. Okay, cool. And when that part came up, I would just go in the kitchen and do something else and then come back afterwards, because I can't watch Mufasa die more than once. But Misery, man, I'm going to have nightmares, dude. She hit him in the ankles with a sledgehammer. Kathy Lee Bates was no joke, dude. Or Kathy Bates, whatever her name is, she was no joke.
That was cold-blooded, man. And it's different because I mentioned Boys in the Hood and Goodfellas. People were shooting people with guns, right? What she did was kind of personal.
Yeah.
That was personal. And that scene always sticks with me. And full circle, and what we can't do is I'm not a big fan of horror flicks anymore.
No.
And I don't watch gore and horror anymore. And by the way, the name of that record store was The Warehouse, across the street from the McDonald's on Glen Oaks. The Warehouse.
That was it.
Got them throughout the city. Right.
The Warehouse. Now you got to talk about Circuit City.
Right. Circuit City.
Circuit
Gone.
City. Gone.
Sam
Good Guys. Gone.
Yeah.
There it is. And that's how we going to close this out, man. You know, we just been kicking it. This is a lot of fun, man. Just going back, reminiscing. You know, we've said it many times. I can't think of too many good memories of growing up that don't include you, because we was always together. I can't think of too many bad ones that don't include you, because we was always together. But the 90s was just one of them times, man. We was just hanging out, doing our thing, having a good time, and it was about the moment, right? And this is what I want to say to you 20-somethings out there. You know, live it up. And learn from your elders in your life, because, you know, they made some mistakes you don't have to make. But live it up, explore, figure some stuff out, make some mistakes, right? Because, you know, we were never one and done. We were never like, oh, life doesn't matter and blah, 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 but we lived it. And here we are, you know, late 40s, 50s, blah, 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 and we've come full circle. Again, no regrets. Looking back at, you know, did our thing and had a good time doing it.
Live it up to the fullest, and with responsibility, be accountable for your actions. But you got to live. You got to enjoy your time. You only live once, and tomorrow is not promised. I'm glad that we had a chance to kind of share that with our audience, because a lot of people don't really embrace the blessings that they have with today. People are planning for, I gotta retire. If you're around my age, people are planning for, I gotta move, gotta buy a house, I gotta buy a car. And yeah, you gotta plan for all those things, but also don't forget to live while you're doing it. It's really important. So that would be my closing. What's your closing?
My closing is, you've been kicking it with the brothers from the 818. We just been talking about the 90s and chilling and kicking it. We're going to have some more exciting content for y'all. Shout out to Ade and Pius from last week, man. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback about that. I meant to mention that earlier, but just shout out
Let me mention something. Nigerian just won the NBA NBA MVP, right?
Was it NBA MVP? Yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Greek freak, he from Nigeria. I know he was raised in Greece, but from Nigeria, he is now an NBA champion.
So speaking of Nigeria, I just finished a book called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Check it out. Good book. He was talking about different things, but one of the things he brought up, he's first generation American from Nigeria. His parents came over here from Nigeria, and he was talking about being African American versus black. And he says, I go by black because Africa is an entire continent. He's like, he's like, if anything, I'm Nigerian American. And I was like, interesting point. But whenever I hear Nigeria now, it's like, big up. I just
right. I'm celebrating it too. my country just won the NBA. Has an NBA superstar.
Exactly. Truth is, it's probably a lot of our countries. 3 out of 4 exports out of Africa came out of Nigeria. So big up for that. I wanted to just send a shout out to Pius and Ade for blessing us with that opportunity. Check out last week's episode if you haven't yet. You can check that out on YouTube, just like this one, like you're watching right now. We're on Facebook. We're on streaming media everywhere: Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, and on the Brothers from the 818.com. That's our website. You can catch everything from there. We just like kicking it with y'all. We like opening the door and letting you into a little conversation on how we do it from the 818. I'm going to be in the 818 this weekend at a food pop-up with our favorite chef, Roxy. Might see me and Caleb out there doing some podcasting, letting people know what's up, where we're from. We're going to New Orleans in a couple weeks. We will not do a broadcast from New Orleans, but you will hear from us while we're there, touching base, seeing what's going on. Because we take the 818 with us wherever we go. We take you with us wherever we go, and we're glad you keep coming back. Y'all keep coming back, we'll keep showing up, and that's how we do. And that's about all I got for the people. We out?
We're out. Peace.
You are down with
The brothers from the